in this video, look at this. This is huge. The search volume for quote Bitcoin halving just reached a new all-time high. Look at this Google Trends chart. The Bitcoin halving search term is spiking above the previous spike, and guys, this was at the exact moment of the previous Bitcoin halving back in 2016. So because of this spike in the past 24 hours, we're seeing more people search for the Bitcoin halving than the actual Bitcoin halving 4 years ago. We're seeing many more people paying attention to Bitcoin now than 4 years ago. This is showing us that the demand is increasing for Bitcoin and that people are researching Bitcoin and what the halving means and how the unique inflation schedule of Bitcoin makes Bitcoin completely unique in this world. And also in this video, I'm going to show you this exclusive collaboration I made with Chris from Crypto. He's going to show us a chart with a very interesting signal for Bitcoin that only fires every now and then, and he's going to show you exactly how this can be a very bullish sign for Bitcoin for the next few months and years. And before I show you the clip where Chris from Crypto is going to show us a very interesting on-chain chart, I'm gonna take a look at the Bitcoin price. And as you can see, guys, Bitcoin is still in this bear flag, trending towards the upside while the volume is still declining here. And of course, when the volume is declining while the price is going up, we should be a little bit cautious and not get overwhelmingly bullish. And you can also see here how Bitcoin is struggling to break through this trend line that I've shown you a few times before. And interestingly, we've now seen 1 and 2 bounces or rejections off of this trend line. And if Bitcoin is not able to break through in the next hours or the next day here, then I'm afraid that Bitcoin is looking bearish and we are going to have to expect some lower prices in the immediate short term. And what I'm going to be watching, of course, is this upward trending support. If the support breaks and if you see a big spike in the volume, then that is a big bearish signal. Bitcoin is basically running into a lot of resistance here from the previous support area right here. You can see how Bitcoin is struggling to break through. And I think that and just like I said, I think the immediate test for Bitcoin to break through this resistance here, of course, we have tested it several times, and the more times we test a resistance, the likelier it is that we eventually break through. And if Bitcoin is able to break through this resistance, then I think it's possible that the bulls might have a chance of taking back the control. But as of right now, we are still in a bear flag and still below key resistance, and I think that we should be aware of that as we're looking at the chart. And before I show you the clip with Chris, I just want to tell you that the Amazon stock is up 7% almost in one single day today. So it seems like Amazon is the safe haven right now. And if we go over to the Amazon stock, you can see how the stock is basically pushing towards the all-time high here. And that is, of course, something that stands out in the current environment. Most stocks are plunging currently. We're seeing most of the stocks being in a huge bear market after the big collapse we've seen for the past few weeks. And the big corona crisis has led to many physical shops closing down. And, of course, this increases the demand for online shopping and e-commerce. So this is probably why the Amazon stock is doing well now. People are bullish on online shopping because people believe that this crisis might go on for much longer. However, if you zoom out, I still think it's quite obvious that the Amazon stock, just like all the other big stocks, have been in a huge bubble for the past 2 decades. Look at this. This is just extraordinary growth. This was back in the dot-com bubble, and Amazon has come a long way since then. But remember that ever since 2008, we've seen 0% interest rates in the US and even negative in other countries. And we've also seen the Federal Reserve print trillions of dollars, and other central banks have also been joining the party in printing trillions of dollars. So basically, I think that we should be very cautious when we're buying assets that are propped up with so much cheap credits. But now, guys, here comes the amazing collaboration I just recorded with Chris from Crypto, and he's going to show us an amazing signal in the Bitcoin price that has worked out very well historically. And over the past few years, it seems like this was a perfect buy signal. So let's now take a look at this collaboration. All right, guys, so now I'm here with Chris from Crypto, and he will share some interesting thoughts with us about some on-chain stuff. And I also want to ask him about the Bitcoin halving, which is coming up in approximately 28 days now. It's getting closer and closer. And you also saw the graph of the fact that the the Google search term for Bitcoin halving is currently at an all-time high, even way above the previous halving back in 2016. What do you think about that? Isn't that a great sign?
I think this is very, very important. The last time I checked this search term, it was on a 2 years high or so. But the fact that it's now higher than the last time it was a trending topic, this shows us that we don't only have much more people in this space, but also much more interest from the outside world, because it's of course a lot of people just hearing the keyword halving and just going on Google and searching for it. So it's a very, very important thing, because everyone knows for the next bull run, we need new money entering the space. And this is a very interesting indicator to observe within the next few days and weeks.
Yeah, it's even 28 days left to the halving, so we're probably going to see this spike even higher. All right, so that's one bullish sign that we're seeing currently, which is of course also, this is a fundamental thing. It's not like a technical thing in the chart. So, and yeah, speaking of fundamental indicators, I know that you're talking a lot about on-chain indicators on your channel. And I would love to hear if you can share some thoughts about that, and if there's another bullish or bearish signal that you can see.
So everyone who knows me and who knows Crypto will not be surprised that it's a bullish signal. And what I want to bring up is the hash ribbons. We have been talking about that a few times already on our channel. And this one is interesting. It's not only an on-chain data, it's driven by the hash rate of Bitcoin. This one you can actually also at your home observe on TradingView, where you can have all the technical indicators. And I'm going to show you right now what it is saying. So right now we are here on the weekly candles for Bitcoin, and you can see of course the Bitcoin price here on the upside, and on the lower range here you can see the hash ribbons. The vertical lines here are the halving. So the first halving was in 2012 in November, the second one in July 2016, and the next one is coming up in 29 days, just as we said it before. But the interesting part though is that the hash ribbons, which are actually, if we are zooming in a little bit, you can see the green line. This is the short-term moving average of the Bitcoin hash rate, whereas the gray line is the long-term moving average of the Bitcoin hash rate. And the interesting part though, if we are zooming out and we are going back into the future, back into the history, we can see that coinciding with the first and second halving, we had a minus capitulation, because always, zooming in here, when the short-term moving average is going below the gray long-term moving average, we can see this red area here popping up. And when the red area pops up, it is when this gray circle is created. And we saw the exact same thing happening here in 2012 and also in 2016. And the interesting part is that we always saw either before, during, or shortly after the halving, minus capitulation, not only because of course the miners profitability goes down, the future Bitcoin being mined is going to be cut in half, but yeah, also a lot of things are coinciding here, and the difficulty only adjusts every 2 months, every 2 weeks. And the interesting part about that is that every single time we saw the minus capitulation, and within an approximately 30 days period afterwards, this buy signal popping up here, every single time the buy signal popped up, this was a very, very, very bullish thing for Bitcoin. And if you have bought Bitcoin always when this blue buy signal popped up after the minus capitulation here, you saw that here coinciding in the charts, that afterwards we saw a massive run up here for Bitcoin. And I can show it to you for every single time. Look at this halving here in 2016, minus capitulation right here directly after the halving, and then the buy signal, and coinciding with that afterwards a massive run towards the upside. The same thing happened actually at every single buy signal here and every single minus capitulation. Of course, the exact same, actually the most explosive one here in 2012, we saw the capitulation and then we saw the buy signal and the massive run to the upside. And just to conclude that, the bullish thing about right now is that we saw, you probably remember, Carla, I remember you talked about it on your channel, we saw the hash rate plummeting down also, and this created this massive minus capitulation, one of the strongest one we have seen to date. And yeah, right now we have to wait for this shorter moving average to go up, and then once it crosses the gray line again, the long-term moving average, which will approximately happen after the halving here, we will only from a historical confidence level most probably see the next buy indication popping up, and with that coinciding also just from the historical confidence level, which is so far at 100%, also the Bitcoin price spiking up like crazy. So this is right now in light of the halving, my favorite on-chain indicator, which is actually very bullish for the mid-run.
All right, so thank you very much for that explanation. I also want to ask you about the Bitcoin halving coinciding now with the financial crisis and this big corona virus outbreak, because I mean the past year we were talking a lot about the Bitcoin halving. We saw a lot of talks on Twitter, people were talking about it, but in the past few months we haven't seen too much. I think people are just so focused on other stuff now. What do you think about the fact that the Bitcoin halving is coinciding with this environment we've never seen before?
Well, exactly like you said, the fact that we have never seen that before makes it very hard to predict anything, right? The only thing we can do is look at the technicals, look at the fundamentals, and focusing now on the fundamentals and also the exogenous factors in the economy. If you all know what the Bitcoin halving does, it cuts the future inflation in half. And if we are looking at what the Federal Reserve is doing right now, is they are just like doubling down every single day on the future inflation, making it from 5% to 10%, potentially 15, 20%. They are pumping trillions every day, another trillion into the market. And if we are looking at the Bitcoin future inflation being cut in half and the fiat currency future inflation, which is actually the currency we are denominating the value of Bitcoin in, being just pumped up by a big multiple, we can see a massive potential leverage being behind the price of Bitcoin, at least the denomination in US dollar, euro, and so on. Whatever the purchasing power is going to do, who knows? But with all of that, having in our back head, I think Bitcoin is an amazing hedge. Especially in light of what the Federal Reserve, the ECB, and all the other central banks are doing right now.
Exactly, I couldn't agree more. And also, I do believe that Bitcoin is a hedge, but as you're saying, it's a hedge against what the Federal Reserve is doing. And even if we haven't seen the Bitcoin price spike yet, we will see it in the future, because it's always the case with financial stimulus and financial solutions is that you see the effects much later. Whatever you do today with the printing press will have the effect maybe 6 months from now, maybe even up to 2 years from now, some people estimate. So that's something we should keep in mind here, that whatever is happening right now is going to have its full effect in a few years maybe, and that's when Bitcoin is truly going to shine as a safe haven asset, in my opinion. I think we're both agreeing on that.
I can't wait for these days. I'm sure all of your viewers also can't wait. I mean, the biggest gainers in Bitcoin were always the long-term holders. Always keep it in mind, guys, that all these effects, they are not coming tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. Hold your Bitcoin. I think that's the best thing to do. Dollar cost average into Bitcoin, and don't be like too nervous because of all the noise out there and the financial crisis.
Yeah, can you imagine when the Bitcoin price goes about 20,000?
That would be crazy. I mean, I can see already like Bloomberg and all these mainstream media sites finally like starting to talk bullish about Bitcoin.
There will be so many news articles. Everyone will be talking about it. And that's when the mainstream people are going to jump in. And this is where the winners are found today, with the people that are buying when no one else is watching, when no one else is paying attention to Bitcoin. These are the people that will be able to take profits into this big hype cycle.
It will be also much easier for everyone who is buying right now to hold on the big like pumps and crashes afterwards. Everyone who buys in at 20,000 will be washed out at the next crash from 20,000 to 14,000 or from 30,000 to 20,000. But we will be in a massive profit, and it will be very easy to hold on our Bitcoin.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your thoughts. Always nice to have you on the channel. Let's do it again soon.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.